What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. Every single bear is talking about the exact same thing. And even then, I'm not sure they even had an understanding of what the 2022 bear market looked like. I'm going to be diving into the common bear cases that I see, why this correction looks completely different in my eyes, as well as break down a timeline for future price appreciation, and if we are going to get the cycle to continue, when that could wrap up. I also think I have an answer of how euphoria is going to enter this market and what the narrative will be. So let's get into the video. All right, everybody. First things first, we are going to cover, like I said, bear cases that I think just look different, at least in my eyes. Common things that I see people talk about. I have this Fibonacci retracement pulled up. It's a 382 retracement if you guys want to go see that on your screen. This can be replaced with 50-week moving average, weekly fair value gap. There's a variety of things that people are pointing to for this phase of the cycle and where we could be at. I just think that the 382 is a good general thing to have on here and summarizes those other points that I'm talking about. So whether it's 50-week moving average, weekly fair value gap, 382 retracement, a variety of those things pointing to being in that area is what a lot of bears are talking about, and we're going to talk about in this video what the differences are. The first thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to remove these drawdowns. The first thing I want to talk about is this sweep of the high that came in. Okay, so this sweep back in 2021, I'm not going to talk about the sentiment. I'm going to try to avoid sentiment in this video. Maybe I might talk about it a little bit, but we've covered that about videos last week and stuff like that on how the sentiment was different. If you were around and active in the market and you remained active this entire time, you should know what I'm talking about. But if not, I guess we'll cover it a little bit in this video. But the first thing is this liquidity sweep. This, in my eyes, is a true liquidity sweep. If we zoom in here, all right, this daily candle was not able to hold above, instantly closed underneath. We had 1, 2, 3 days that closed above, 4 if you count that one right there. So very limited time spent above this, and it's even more prevalent when we look at the weekly chart. So if I put the weekly on here, draw my little line from the high, clear sweep of the high, another chance to break through. What happened in this area, right, is you get another liquidity sweep to come in. That ended up being the top of the market, obviously. Let's go ahead and look at this again, and we're just going to take a general, date and time here. We'll take from here to, I guess we can all agree that that was the last day that had like an actual shot of closing above that candle. So 26 days in and around that area, and that's being generous because I'm counting this in here. We did it at the beginning of the video. If we just count the individual bars, it's more like 5 days. Not a very long time spent at these levels. Obviously, we've talked about in other videos too about how the dynamics were completely different. Bitcoin Bitcoin dominance was at macro lows. Ethereum price in Bitcoin had already ran. Fib extensions had already been hit. All of these things, right? So not even talking about that, just purely looking at Bitcoin's price action. Big difference, in my opinion, to this cycle, which we will now talk about again on the weekly time frame. So this is that same high that everybody's pointing to. Even if you wanted to be generous and say it was this, I don't really see people pointing to that, but whatever have you. You can do it however you like. It's still going to hold true. But this is vastly different. Just look at it. Liquidity sweep. This is more structure, much more structure. So we have structure above the highs, right? We test it. This could have been a liquidity sweep. If we had been going through everything we've gone through in here, if we had gone boom and then gotten all this right here, I wouldn't be making a video like this. I guess I wouldn't be able to mention this in the video. So I am being fair. If we had done a normal sweep or a sweep that we had seen last cycle, I can just go ahead and draw this. If we had gone in and done this right here, then yeah, I'd be more open to something like this. But to me, this is vastly different. This is not a liquidity sweep in my eyes. This is a quick grab. This is multiple weeks sustaining over. So this whole area in here is October 18th to, and me being generous, November 15th, really November 8th. So couple weeks. Like I said, we said 26 days. This alone right here is July 7th all the way to when we lost it, November 3rd. So much more time spent above this level. Can't really categorize this as a liquidity sweep in my eyes. Even if you add it on the monthly time frame, even if we throw it on the monthly time frame, you see how different this looks. Holding above for 4 months before losing it. So that is very different in my opinion. I don't think you categorize this as a liquidity sweep per se, at least not in the same way that we have this one here. So the next thing is the percentage pull down. This was a massive kick off the all-time highs. This was a 50% haircut from the all-time highs. You see that if we add this on log scale, 50% cut off the all-time highs. It'd show it better if we were looking at it like as a past cycle, I guess. But anyways, 50% cut off the all-time highs, 52 to be exact. What do we have this cycle? Okay, we're not even talking about dynamics and stuff in this video. Try to avoid sentiment, but 36% right here. So 36% move, 52% move. It just makes things different. I do have the understanding that as these cycles move along, the pumps are going to be smaller, but also the dumps are going to be smaller as well. That is just a fact of the matter of the situation. Those gains are going to shrink. There's going to be more stability and less volatility. So maybe it's attributed to that. But when we look at it, like I said, we can see that because we didn't get this 50% decline, this volatility in here has not been the same. It hasn't been these big whipsaws that we saw in past cycles. So this is let's see, almost 50% pump. If we pump 50% off these lows, 42%, we would be all the way up here, right? That doesn't line up with where the 382 came in. So that's the problem with not moving down as far. I can go ahead and we can just, pretend we did dump 52%. And let's say we dumped 52% from that liquidity sweep we talked about earlier. So that's our 52%. And this 382 retracement would be coming in about $80,000. And what would that lead to? It's probably going to be, what is that, 50% pump, somewhere in there. So that would make more sense. But that's the difference. If it was going to be exactly like last cycle, from the liquidity sweep to the percentage drawdown to the retracement, this is what it would look like. Okay, so I want you guys to have that understanding. I'll go ahead and I can drop the fractal in here, right? We would be looking something like that. I'll try to move this off. See if I can do this. I'll have to cheat a little bit and move it over. Sorry, I need to move my camera over too. Something like that. That's what this cycle would have looked like, in my opinion, if we were following this exactly. Quick sweep of liquidity above these highs, 52% drawdown, retracement back to the 382. Okay, but as we can see, right, again, hasn't been that so far. So a couple key differences there. Like I said, not a liquidity sweep, in my opinion. That's a big difference. Yes, we have moved back to the 382 in here that you can see, right? Yes, there is a 50-week moving average. Yes, there is a weekly fair value gap and things like that. This move down, and especially this liquidity sweep in here, has not been the same. The volatility in here has not been the same as well. And you can see that reflected on this fractal. All of this volatility almost getting to the 382, bouncing back, and then finally hitting it. Where is that at in this move? It's not really there. I'm talking about the same levels, the same size of moves. Yes, you could argue that the structure looks somewhat similar. I'll give you guys somewhat similar. That's what I'll say is somewhat. But even then, things are starting to break away. And then look, because I didn't have the 50% drawdown, look where I have to start this fractal from to get this to line up. If this was, truly following the exact thing, or the exact 50% cut from right there, it would be somewhere down in here with all this taking place. Again, we'd be adding this. There's your 382. Now we look very similar to past cycles. This is what it would have taken to look similar. So my biggest thing is kind of that percentage drawdown and the problems that it causes when looking at the volatility, the style of move in here. And yeah, that's kind of my issue with that. Purely structure. When we're talking about this, that's not even accounting for Bitcoin dominance. That's not accounting for all of these other things that we look at. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out there in this video. Okay, I also said bull market timeline. For that, I'm going to hop over to Bitcoin dominance. Cover this in other videos, but I think this one's kind of a cool one that could give us some insight. When we look at Ethereum price and Bitcoin, when we look at Bitcoin dominance, when we look at a variety of the things that we do look at on this channel, okay, we start to line up and we start to narrow in an idea of where we could potentially be at, right? To me, this gives us two options. I do think a move down in Bitcoin dominance is due and is coming. We can look at this momentum even in here. You can look at Ethereum price and Bitcoin in here. That is another thing. I kind of tied it in with the different than last cycle video because that is something that was different than last cycle. But we want to look at a timeline in here. Right? So what would this point to? I've talked about this spike in Bitcoin dominance. I've talked about what this means if Ethereum price and Bitcoin is breaking out and you get a spike in Bitcoin dominance. Like, this is actually one of the most bullish things you can happen for the market. Your altcoins will still perform well in that time frame, and it sets you up for an even bigger dump for like the final blow off top, final phases of alt season and stuff like that. So if we were to get something similar to this, and again, we kind of know we're in this area based on a matter of a few factors, this would point to kind of a Q4 top in 2026. I find that super interesting because everybody has been saying, hey, our market is here, like, get ready, and the bottom's going to be in Q4 of 2026. It's going to be in October or November of 26. If this plays out, that would not be true. The top would actually come in November of 26, and I would actually find that hilarious. If you guys don't know, I was never a believer of the 4-year cycle. I will argue tooth and nail with this with anybody. I guess I should probably make a video on that at some point. I probably need to do that if I'm going to make that claim. The people that are in my Discord, the people that have been in my live streams and stuff like that, we've covered it like 3 or 4 times. So they know what I'm talking about. They can vouch for me. They can back me up. But if I'm going to say that to you guys, yeah, I should probably back that up with all my data and stuff like that. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. All you need to know is that I was never a believer in the 4-year cycle. Argue in the comments, whatever. At least make me make the video before you argue with me. Anyways, I think that would be hilarious if everybody was like, sweet, bear market's here, it's time to load up, let's go boys, we're gonna get rich in 2028, 2029, something like that, and it ends up being the top and people end up sidelined and or wrecked. I would find that funny. Sorry. Another thing too, right? You want to plan for a variety of outcomes, again, because I don't believe in the 4-year cycle. But let's say we entirely skip this little leg up in here. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think it's something that has to happen. So let's say we skip that and we just instantly dump to macro lows, right? So we go through this phase in here. We'll just say Bitcoin dominance goes this low still. This would point to April, May of 2026, kind of top. And I think both of those times are interesting because, again, like I said, I don't believe in 4-year cycles. To me, the top of the market was actually in here. This was the peak euphoria of the market. This was peak in many, many, many altcoins. Sorry, you guys couldn't see that. I'm talking about the May of 21 top in Bitcoin. That it was just peak. That was peak. I guess it's hard. That's the peak on-chain data. That's the peak on sentiment. That's the peak on interest in crypto. That is the peak on altcoins. It's the peak on a variety of things. So to me, that was the top. All right, so now working with that idea, does a May of 26 top, is that irrational? No, we can top. We don't have to top in a Q4. We can top anytime. And I think some sort of quick move would definitely catch people off guard. I think if we did get some sort of quick move down here and did get a top by or around May of 26, that a lot of people would say, hey, this bad boy is just getting started. We're going to go so much higher. You guys better be ready. Bitcoin dominance is going to break down and we're going to top in Q4 of 26 now, just like we always did. Probably be a lot of the same people already calling for a bear market. They would just be super, super wrong. Okay. Bitcoin or crypto is always going to take advantage of, well, what am I trying to say? The majority of people are going to be wrong. Okay. So this is something I'm prepared for. If we, as we move down through here, we get into this monthly fair value gap. When we get into these macro lows, I will be screaming that it is the top. It's getting close to the top. Now, the path we take to get there, if we do get something like this, we don't get into any of those fair value gaps, I won't be saying top in here. I'll actually be showing you how this is extremely bullish for the market and you need to be prepared. I don't know what's going to happen here if a lot of people are going to be saying, oh my goodness, Bitcoin dominance is breaking out. Now we're in a bear market. But it definitely sets up for a lot of people to get faked out again, which is really nice. Just going through what the sentiment could be at the time. A lot of people would look to Bitcoin dominance and say, oh my goodness, this is breaking out without having an idea of some of the charts that we've covered that negate this and actually show you why it's extremely bullish, especially if Ethereum price and Bitcoin is breaking out, which it does look good. But point is, a lot of people would still be bearish at that point in time, likely, meaning you can get this massive leg to come in. I don't think anybody would be bearish if we just instantly move down. Okay, if we just instantly move down to these macro lows, I think a lot of people would get overzealous and say, hey, we're going to break through these lows. Look at this, and then we're going to go top in Q4 of 26. And I just don't see that as the case. It just is what it is. I'm prepared for either scenario. So I want you guys to know if I do bring this up later at another point in time, that yeah, I'm definitely prepared for both scenarios on this. This would be my preferred scenario, although it does take a lot longer to play out. Okay, we can go ahead and I guess I'll go ahead and add Bitcoin to this chart. I think I have another video this week where I do this, but since we're talking about it, since it's relevant, we can go ahead and add it. We can do, let's do Bitcoin and let's do others, so you guys can really see what I'm talking about with the altcoin market as well as Bitcoin moving higher in tandem together, and how this move up, this little spike right here, is actually a good thing for the market, again, especially if Ethereum price and Bitcoin is breaking out. So this is the moment I'm talking about, right? That would mean right now we're somewhere right here. Go ahead and make this one red. We can make this one green. But this is the moment that I'm talking about, and I would really love to see this show up. I would be so happy to see this show up, because it also gives us more fuel for the true Bitcoin dominance unwind to come in and to go into those macro lows. So as much as I'm ready to sell and be out of the cryptocurrency market for a while and go back to buying instead of holding, like buying is so much more fun. You actually have something to do when it does dip. As much as I would like that, and I'd be happy to see a May of 26 top, this is going to be, we're going to make more money if we have a little bit of patience and this version does end up playing out. So where would that mean? Let's, I said we kind of talk about timing. We can kind of go a little bit more in depth. Where would that mean we were at? Red line somewhere, I guess we'll say right here. It's the best spot to put it, or it would be more so like right there. I'll call it that. Go ahead and call it. Am I tripping? Brain aneurysm. So we'd be somewhere like that, and then this is what, May of 20 to September, 1, 2, 3, 4 months. Is that really only 4 months from May to September? It's crazy. May, where's September? Am I dumb as hell? Oh, I'm tripping. 4 months. Add 4 months. So we'll start, I guess, to make it simple, we'll start from here. 2, 3, 4. Right, so that would mean like April of 26, we're kind of going into this move on Bitcoin dominance, and then again that kind of Q4 of 26 top, right? That's what this would kind of point towards, getting a scenario like this. So that is the timeline for that in there. And then yeah, like I said, this is more than welcome, and I would be prepared for a situation like this if Bitcoin dominance does nuke. I'm not going to be one of the dummies saying that it's going to break these range lows or going to do this or do that. I would be exiting the market on that move. And that's like May, April time. So I think regardless, around May or April, like things should be pretty awesome, should be having fun. If we are going to follow something similar to this, and even outside of what we're talking about in this video, I have a reason for that. When we look at Bitcoin price or Bitcoin dominance monthly momentum, I have a video this week about why altcoins are probably bottomed against Bitcoin and what that means for the market as well as Bitcoin. I'd be more than happy to see that come in. But again, we get this longer term to play out, then we're looking at like a Q4 of 2026 timeframe. That does give us a whole year of things being kind of fun, which is nice. For my banana zone people, right? Straight up banana zone in there. So time will tell. In due time, we will see. But just wanted to prepare you guys, give you guys some timelines, show you why this is different, why this whole correction has been different than what people are talking about, and bull market timeline. Wow, I really went on a rant. That's 24 minutes. But I do have another thing I want to talk about. Like, yo, where's the euphoria been? I just saw a chart the other day. What am I trying to say? Viewership on crypto is at an all-time low across all the major YouTube platforms. Google search results for crypto and all these things are at lows, and it's just there's not any interest. None of these sentiment indicators have peaked. There's never been this like peak mega euphoria moment like we had back in May of 2021. Things have just been vastly different. What is going to get, and the question has been, everybody's been asking is, we have governments buying Bitcoin, it's not enough. We have ETFs, it hasn't been enough. Like, what's going to cause us to get euphoria in this market? It's my idea that breaking the 4-year cycle, as people typically call it, is going to bring that euphoric moment. If we do this, what the hell do all the bears who said this was the top because every 4 years we make this top, what do all the bears say into a moment like this? They say, holy shit, this is real, super mega cycle. We're going into 2027, we're going into 2028. This thing's going to go on forever. And that, by definition, when people start using language like that, is when you get tops like this to come in. So please do not be ignorant. If we have if we get this, please do not be ignorant. Please do not be, saying stuff like this thing's going to go on forever. Still remain based. Look at your Bitcoin dominance. Look at all these other things. Look at the things that you need to look at that typically mark these cycle tops, and don't focus on the timeline of the situation or extending of that timeline or anything like that. But I really do think that it is going to be kind of a peak euphoric moment in the market. I actually had a tweet on this the other day. I'll go ahead and add it here because I think it summarizes kind of what we're talking about a little bit better. But something I've been thinking about a lot, if Bitcoin makes a new all-time high in 2026, it doesn't just mean price goes up. It means a 4-year cycle, something the entire market has believed in for over a decade, is officially broken. That is a narrative shift. And narrative shifts are what trigger the real euphoria. Everyone who is sitting out, waiting for the scheduled bear market, suddenly has to chase. Speculation would hit levels that make 2021 look tame, and things would get extremely stupid extremely fast. I'm not sure the market is ready for that. And that is kind of my overall idea of what I'm saying. If this thing does go higher, if what we're looking at with Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum price in Bitcoin is true, and this thing does break up, holy shit, is the market going to get euphoric. 4-year cycle is broken, are going higher. Time for $1 million Bitcoin, time for a run into 2028. All of the things and the narratives and stuff like that you typically see at tops and that you want to see mark tops and things like that will come into play. So that's just kind of my overall idea. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It went on pretty long. We're about 30 minutes in. Hopefully you guys found some value in this. If you guys didn't know, I do have a free Discord. I have a bunch of stuff in there. I'll make a video on it when it's fully ready. It is somewhat under construction right now, so I do apologize for that. I will make a video when it's fully ready, but we have a ton of stuff in there. Let me go ahead and look on my phone real quick, and I can just kind of list some of the channels that I'm talking about. I have a news feed in there. I have a live news feed. So TwitterBot, basically scraping all the news from Twitter. You can get it all in my Discord. Obviously, the typical chats in there. I do daily market updates. I drop all my YouTube videos early in the free Discord, if you guys didn't know. I have my swing trades in there. So anytime I'm taking a swing position, you guys will know about it. Excuse me. I have my day trades in there. I have free signal trades. So when I say signal trades, that's from an automated system, and you guys will get the automated message of like, hey, take this trade, boom, 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 this trade to this target price. You can go ahead and hop in on that. My day trades are going to be more discretionary / there's going to be setups like, hey, let's wait for this move in here and then we can go long or go short. My swing trades are going to come around every once in a while. I'm actually in a swing trade right now. It's like a 40% trade on Bitcoin. So, catching the bigger moves. I'm going to have free tools listed in there. Again, I have the news feed. There will be daily market updates. There will also be something I'm calling Market at a Glance. It's going to kind of scrape all the information that you need to know based on daily closes. What did Bitcoin do? What did Bitcoin dominance do that day? Maybe some news stories attached to that or some sentiment probably at the same time, scraping that from CoinMarketCap just to kind of centralize that. I'm going to have education in there as well. I'll be doing live streams. I'll be doing live trading. Outside of that, I have premium indicators that you can access in there. I have free indicators. Forgot about that. Yeah, free indicators you can access in there. I have an automated service that I'm working on outside of the signals. Signals will be automated, but this is going to be like algo trading for you, kind of hands off and stuff like that. So just a ton of stuff in there, trying to provide as much value as I can for you guys. So definitely hop in there if you want to be a part of that. I appreciate you guys. There'll be future videos on it. See you in the next one. Peace.